ang class para later on kamuliwat or sa mga wala ka-attend online class, sila attend. Okay? Now, so today, we're going to discuss about value-added tax on importation. Okay? Or VAT on importation. Okay? So, nga man ginbutang ko di ang term nga exempt transaction, no? It's because ng mas damo, no? Or mas damo ang mga vatable compared to those exempt transactions. Okay? So, kung ma-master nyo ang mga exempt transactions, na gamay mo lang na sila, no, ang mga exempt transactions. So, other than those, no, nga nakalista, okay, it's because tax is based on law, no. So, kung ano dito ang ara sa law, no, sa aton nga bagong nga law, nga tax law, nang hindi na siya pwedeng maliwat or hindi mo na siya pwede dugangan or hindi mo na siya pwede ibanan. Okay, so ang mga exempt transactions gamay man lang compared to those taxable. So meaning, all other transactions except sa inyong mga exempt, no, is vatable. Okay, kung once nga master mo ang inyong exempt transactions, then makita mo sa problem nga naghatag siya sang wala dito sa list nga ara nga ginhambal sang law, hindi automatically that product or services is already taxable. Okay? Ay, wait lang, may hindi kasulod na classmate. Right, so let's define first what is importation. Importation means that it is the purchase of goods or services by Philippine residents from non-resident sellers. Or ang silingon, no, ang importation, mga consumption ina naton or mga ginapangbakal naton which is outside from the Philippines na pasulod sa Philippines. Okay? So those products or services na ginakasulod sa Philippines, they are subject to binatawag na VAT on importation. But may ara certain exemptions, exemption rules, no, ginhatag si government para hindi ganun kabugat, no, ang mga ga-import sang goods, especially inang mga basic necessities. Okay? So mostly na dadayon sa mga basic goods or basic necessities na mga product na import is exempt. No? Later on, may-ari ko din ihatag nga parang list, no? Okay? Na better gidya guys nga ma-master nyo siya para later on mas mahupos, no, mag-solve sa inyo. Okay, once nga balaan nyo gani nga wala siya dito sa list, edi automatically vatable or taxable siya. Excuse me. Okay, and it's very important man, no? Kaya ang taxation ng board examination today is more on theories rather than problems or solving problems, no? Kaya gina-encourage ang theories more sa taxation subong rather than the computation. Okay? Okay, kung mahupos mo na yung mag-compute for the tax, ang mabudla is purely theories. Okay? So there are two types of consumption tax on importation. It is either VAT on importation for the import of goods, no, or the final withholding VAT for the purchase of services. So later, may ara na siya ruling on how to compute for the VAT on importation and how to compute for the final withholding VAT. Okay. So there are two kinds of import goods. It is either exempt na importation or vatable importation. So we will only discuss this exempt na once nga ba ang ginagawa ni, there's no need to elaborate pa kung ano ang mga vatable. Okay? So exempt importation ginahati-hati man sa into four parts, no? There are importation of exempt goods, no? There are also importation by VAT exempt persons. Kaya may ara iyang mga tawo nga generally exempted from the VAT on importation, mga quasi or quasi importation. and importation which are exempt under special laws and international agreement. Okay, ng mga uh, treaties, no, mga treaties from other countries. Okay. Sige, so let's proceed. On the importation of exempt goods, no, may ara na siya yung mga different pagid nga parang subparts na gin isa-isa na, no, ano bala inang mga exempt goods na gina para pag-abot or pag-import ni importer pasulod sa Philippines is considered as exempt, okay? And when I say exempt goods, guys, no, these are products, no, which is are not taxable, meaning wala sila bayaran ng mga taxes pasulod sa Philippines. Although there are some na may mga charges kaya mga docking fee pag-abot sa port, no. Ang ginamin lang diya nga exempt is adtong mga products nga wala gid bayaran nga tax. Okay? So first is the basic human food and related goods. Kay basta gani makita niyo nga hinahatag sa problem is basic human food and related goods, no? Automatically exempt. Okay? Ano-ano na sila? First is the agricultural and marine food products. Okay? Agricultural and marine food products. Take note ha. Food products only. Okay, which is on ara sa ilang original state. Okay, ginabalta original state, wala pa siya ma-process, no? Or it only undergoes simple processing. Okay, kung inang mga ginpadala or mga ginpang import is mga dilata. Ang dilata is already considered as food, di ba? Itong processed sila, no? Hindi sila parts ng exempted. Okay? Only lang mga agricultural and marine food products nga ara sa ilang original state. Okay? Another is livestock and poultry that is intended for human consumption. Okay? Pero kung ang intention sang sapat din padala sa Pilipinas is for pet or for entertainment purposes or for mga betting, mga pangsabong, no, mga ginatayan, okay? Hindi man na siya dala sa exempted. Okay? Ang exempted lang are those livestock and poultry ng mga animals which is intended for human consumption. Okay? Then another is for breeding stock and genetic materials. Okay? Pwede man nga inang livestock, no, ng mga poultry nga is intended bala para for breeding purposes. Kaso ang for breeding nila ya is still for human consumption, ay dala na siya. Okay, amo ning pinaka-importante yung katandaan, for human consumption. Okay? So next nga importation of exempt nga mga goods, no, are the books, newspapers, and magazines. Okay? May ari di ang very important nga rules on this, no, sa books, newspaper, and magazines. No? First, they must appear at regular intervals with fixed price. When we say regular intervals, inang mga may subscriptions. Okay? Subscriptions lang nga inang nagapadala ikaw every month or every quarter or every semi-annually, no? Or annually. Amo nang ginatawag nga regular intervals, meaning may subscriptions. Okay? May subscriptions ang consumer dire sa Philippines. Okay? Once nga ma-fulfill nila and adtong mga books, newspaper, and magazines, dapat to know they are not devoted for advertisements, no? Or for advertisements. So dapat may ari ni siya rule nga at least 70%, no, sang books, newspaper, and magazines are for educational purposes o kung ano pa nga mga kwan for books, newspaper, and magazines, as long as hindi siya maglapaw, no, sa 30% na remaining, no, which is intended for advertisements. Although hindi mo siya 100%, no, nga necessary nga wala siya ads, no, but at least, no, hindi siya maglapaw 30% for the total total content of the specific books, newspapers, or magazines. Okay? So duha na, basic human food which is for human consumption and ara sa iya nga original state, no? The next is books, newspaper, and magazines nga dapat ara sa regular intervals and may ara sa sang paid na subscriptions, okay? And hindi siya intended for ads. Okay? Next. Um, next nga goods, no, are passengers or cargo vessels and aircrafts including engine, equipment, and spare parts. Okay? Ini, okay, ang ginamit na sini mga vessels, mga barko. Okay? Barko, kag, aircrafts, mga eroplano, no? Including pati ang mga parts, engines, at mga equipment niya. Okay? So may ruling kung ano lang ang pasado da, no? So first, it must qualify for Marina Vessel Retirement Program. May mga application na da sa Marina, may mga specific details na pero wala nang diging tackle. Ang mga kinanglan kada makapasar before siya ma-exempt, no, ng vessels or aircrafts. Okay, for passenger and cargo, 15 years. For tankers, 10 years, no? Mga high-speed passenger crafts, 5 years. Okay, amo na siya ang parang basic or mga common na thresholds for those cargo vessels or passenger vessels. Okay. Next, okay. So mutong tatlo, food products, okay, agricultural and marine food products na original state, no, for human consumption, okay, books, newspaper, and magazines na hindi intended for ads, and mga passenger and cargo vessels and aircrafts, no, na mag-qualify sa Marina Vessel Retirement. May mga muna sa mga parang notes, no, parang tandaan niyo guys, no, parang mga keywords, no, para mas madasig niyo matandaan ang certain na topic kayo, ang certain na mga exempt goods kay after day, no, mas damo pag yung mga exempt goods which is different na yung mga categories naman, hindi naman siya importation but for mga business tax naman siya, no. Okay, so next, no, importation by VAT exempt person. So ang tao mismo nga nag-import is exempted. Okay, so VAT exempt persons are not subject to VAT on importation, of course. Okay, so ang mga VAT exempt persons, ang nag-identify lang sila is first CBIR, no, and may mga applications man na dito. Okay, and gahambal lang ang only authority nga maghambal nga VAT exempt person ikaw, no, is CBIR. Okay, so the extent of the exemption varies per exempt person, so sari-sari sila. Okay, so now take note of this. When an exempt importer, no, subsequently sells his exempt importation to a non-exempt persons, the non-exempt buyer shall be subject to VAT on importation. For example, okay, ako, VAT exempt person ako. Okay, gin-declare ako ni BIR, may harap ko mga certificate, nag-process ako, nag-apply ako for VAT on importation exemption. Okay, so nag-import ako, no, certain product from, let's say, America. Okay, itong VAT exempted ako, I am not required, no, I am not obligated to pay those VAT on importation or taxes on importation. Okay, pero, okay, atong gin-import na ako from other country, from the America nga product, okay, ginbaligya ko siya. Okay, pag import na ako, ginbaligya ko siya automatically kay person 2 kung sino man na siya. Okay, and ato siya, hindi siya exempted na tao or wala siya yung mga exemptions pag-abot sa VAT on importation, no. So ang ruling sa BIR, although exempted ako, no, itong ginbaligya sa iya, okay, those person nga nagbakal sang ginbaligya kung imported ni goods, okay, shall be automatically subject to VAT on importation. It is as if, no, siya ang nag-import sa itong product ang ginbakal ko from the other country. Right? Sandali na. So, sino-sino sila ang mga VAT exempt persons under the NIRC? Okay? First, yung mga international shipping or air transport operators. Okay? Ng mga, take note, international shipping. Okay? Ng mga yung tawag dito, mga cargo vessels, no? Pero dapat international sila. Ang mga owners sila, ang mga operators sila. Before sila ma-consider as VAT exempt, dapat international ang ilang ruta. Okay. Next is agricultural cooperatives. Take note, agricultural only nga cooperatives. Okay. And may ruling man kung ano lang ang exempted for them. Okay, later. So next are the eco zone or the economic zone locators. Are those mga businesses which is inside the economic zone of the Philippines. No? Amo na sila. Once nga kada sa inside of that eco zone, automatically you are exempted by that VAT importation. Okay. So far, clear? Or may questions or clarifications? Guys? Hello? Hello?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Yeah,
May
yes.
pamangkot about sa Shopee bala, sir, nga man inang kung overseas bala nga ginbakal. Yang dabi diri sa ako dabi nag-check out to din overseas bala akong ginbakalan nga man
Okay.
daw wala siya bala, sir.
Okay, usually ang price included na daya ang VAT, no? Hindi kaya ma-considered nga importer sina kay ang gwa sina iya, although nakabutang da sa Shopee is shipped from overseas, no? May ara pa ya sellers, no? May ara pa ya seller nga agyan na siya before niya ihatag sa imo. So and mostly ang style sina nila is ginapatong na nila those prices sa sa imo nga bayaran. Okay? Usually ang ginabakal niyo da sa Shopee na mga tax included na laban. Gets
Ay
niyo?
ang sa Alibaba, yes, sir, ng
Ang sa ano?
ng sa Alibaba bala, sir. Na
Okay.
ana siya daw Shopee man sa pero digto nasa sa China. Kay
Sa ibang bansa
nakatry
na
man
siya.
ko. Oo, pero nakatry man ko sa to. Daw barato daan digto, sir. Pero
Okay.
nung do para man ang price sa Shopee din if na ano na kay may nabayaran pa sa nga customs. So, sa customs bala, sir.
Okay,
VAT man na siya, sir.
ining tawag niyo, inang sa customs. Okay. Those charges na gina-charges ang customs, inang niya pagpasulod bala sa port, no? So ining VAT on importation nga maliban sa tong charges na ginabayaran mo sa Bureau of Customs, may another kapag nga bayaran for the BIR. Kay may own niya charges may own niya nga charges si Bureau of Customs, no? Then pagpasulod mo sina kay maliban sa Bureau of Customs nga bayaran mo, mabayaran kapag for the BIR. That's why gamahali ng mga imported ng mga products. And considering ang Alibaba is siya, no, foreign nga company, while ang Shopee is local na siya, di ba? Yeah, so parang third party na sila yan, hindi na sila yan ang Shopee itself hindi na siya ang nagbaligya sa imo, kundi parang mediator lang na siya between the buyer and the seller. So dito lang na siya ginansya sa sa mga sellers, no? Kag karga lang na sa certain percentage siguro. Damo na ilaya ilang business model, no? They are not directly selling you, but may ara sila inang mga sellers that inside that Shopee, sila na ang gabaligya diretso sa imo. And ang tax nga bayaran niya, ang mabayad isang tax, no, is actually kita. Ginapatong nila na sa price. Di ba usually wala kita resibo nga may nababaton sa Shopee. Dito na yan sa sellers tanan gahalin.
Get, sir. Thank you, sir.
Wala na sa resibo. Diba wala miski diin ka nga wala yung resibo ang Shopee. But kung diri ka bakal ka sa mall, no, makita mo da may tax, pero dito na sa resibo dapat mag-a-apply man ng tax sa ginabayad. Okay, so any more questions? Meron pa questions? Okay, so kung wala, no, let's continue, right? So drita sa mga international shipping or air transport operators, okay? So dire sa ila ng mga international shipping or air transport operators, ila sini exemption, no, is only limited, no, sa importation of fuel, goods and supply. Okay, may ara pa gid isa kanot. And those fuel, goods, and supplies, no, it must be used for international transport. Okay? Although brought to Philippines, no, ang purpose dapat is for international transport, meaning um although diri sila ga-operate, no, ang before sila ma-considered na exempted meaning mga fuel, goods, and supplies from shipping and air transport operators, dapat ang rota sa eroplano is from Philippines going outside. Kaya mo na siya from Philippines going outside and vice versa. Okay? Pero kung local like Manila or Rojas to Manila, Manila to Cebu or Rojas to Cebu, no? Mga flight, they are not exempted. Kaya ang only exempted lang atong mga international na transport. Okay? And their exempted or exemption, no, is only limited sa fuel, goods, and supplies. Right? So next, ito, agricultural cooperatives. Okay? Take note this ha, hindi tanan nga cooperative kay may sari-sari nga cooperative, di ba? May mga lending nga cooperatives, may electric cooperatives, no? But ang only lang nga gin-allow ni BIR to be exempted, no, on the importation is agricultural cooperatives only. Okay? And those agricultural cooperatives may certain mga rules, no, kung ano lang ang ma-exempt sa ila. Okay? So they are only limited, no, sa importation of their direct farm inputs. No, ano ng mga direct farm inputs nila ay ng mga part of ang mga seedlings, no, ng mga for farming lang din nila nga gamiton coming from outside of the Philippines. Another is machineries and equipment, okay, including their spare parts. Okay? So, may conditions for exemption. Number one, the cooperative must be an agricultural cooperative that is duly registered sa CDA. Okay? Maski agricultural cooperative pa sila, then hindi sila registered sa CDA, they are not part of that exemption. Okay? Ang muna tandaan nyo, dapat exempted sila or registered sila sa CDA or sa Cooperative Development Authority. Okay? And it must be used directly and exclusively in the production or processing of their products. Okay? Now, for example, si agricultural cooperative nag-import sa machineries and equipment, no, nga gamiton nila for production or pag-ani nila, okay, mga tracer nila, ayan, ano pa ng mga equipment, mga farm equipments, no, ng mga tracer, ano pang ibang gani, ng harvester, no, kung gin-import nila na and gamiton nila for sa production, no, and processing sang product nila, it is exempted. Okay? But for example, nag-import sila salakyan, okay, cars, okay, or kung ano pa da klase ng salakyan, hindi na siya part ng exemption. Okay? Another, if nagbakal sila sang equipment, machinery equipments, and ginbaligya nila sa members nila, right? It is not still considered as exempted. Okay, bayaran Japon ina sang VAT on VAT on importation. Okay? Amo na siya. So dapat ang gamiton lang or ang pwede lang ma-exempt are those machineries and equipment nga pagagamiton directly and exclusively sa usage, no, sa production or processing sang product ni agricultural cooperative. No, kung ibaligya nila outside sang ilang cooperative, hindi man na siya dala. Okay? Naintindihan? I mean, sa agricultural cooperatives, dapat ang agricultural cooperative lang ang magamit, okay, for the production and processing of their products. Kung ginbaligya nila sa GWA, ginbaligya nila sila members, hindi pwede. Okay? Hindi siya dala sa exemption. And dapat registered sila sa CDA, no, or sa Cooperative Development Authority. Next are those persons belonging to ecozone, no, or economic zone. Okay, so ecozone means designated places of economic activity for the production of goods and services for the export market. Okay, no, gin-explain ko lang nila now. When we say of ecozone, no, ecozone location, these are locations, no, or these are places within the Philippines. Ara na siya sa sulod sang Pilipinas. Yeah. May ara ni isa sa Zamboanga, sa Manila yata may isa man, sa Cebu dumayara man isang ginatawag na ecozone location. Okay? Once nga ara kada sa sulod sang ecozone location, no, you are not considered part, no, sang Philippine territory for taxation. You are considered as a foreign country, no, or you are considered part of a foreign country. So meaning, kung nag-import ng si ecozone ang mga businesses inside those ecozone, nag-import sila from outside of the country, they are not taxed, no? Because hindi sila belong sa territory ni Philippines. Okay? So ecozone are by legal fiction are considered as a foreign country within the Philippines. Okay? So technical importation is the purchase of non-ecozone resident to ecozone registered enterprises. Okay, wait lang guys ha, bitawag. Okay, so let's go back, no? Technical importation, no, or purchase of non-ecozone resident to ecozone registered enterprises. Ano ni siya? For example, may isa ka company, may isa ka business nga ara sa ecozone location. Okay? So ako nga ari di, for example, ari ko outside of that ecozone location, location. Nagbakal ako dito sa sang product inside sang ecozone na location. Okay? Maski ara siya sa sulod sang Pilipinas, ito ko nagbakal ako dito sa ecozone location and wala ako yan, nag-start ko yan outside or nag-business ako outside of that ecozone location, considered na sa na importation. Okay? Although ara siya sa sulod sang Philippines or ang transaction is take place sa sulod sang Philippines, itungod ara siya sa ecozone location, then nagbakal ako sa iya which is ako ara sa gwa sa ecozone location. Okay? Considered na sa Japan as importation and considered siya or chargeable sa of that VAT on importation. Okay? So, intindihan? Clear? Guys, clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Or damo na information overload na. Dapat tapos may next pa dayon, no? On how to compute. Okay, may isa pa ka PowerPoint presentation on how to compute of that VAT on importation. Okay? And ato is based on tawag dito. Ato yung computation is for persons nga hindi dala sa exemption. Okay? Okay, so but siya, no? Next is the quasi, okay? Quasi, kung quasi mo i-pronounce or quasi, it's still correct, no? Pero hindi pwede quasi. Okay? Dapat ko, no? Quasi or quasi. Okay? So, quasi importation, ano niya siya? Okay? So, import of personal and household effects belonging to residents of the Philippines returning from abroad or non-resident citizens coming to resettle in the Philippines. For example, no? Tawag dito, COFW, ba? So, mostly, OFWs, no? Most of their time, ara sila sa gwa sang Philippines, di ba? Mas lawig to ila time compared sa ara sila sa Philippines. Now, if they decide nga tawag dito, nga magsulod or magbalik na sa Pilipinas, hindi na sila mag-abroad, no? Hindi na sila mag-OFW, then for sure, may dalon sila nga mga gamit, tama? Kaya tungod kung dito sila umra or ga-star for how many years, for sure, there are things, no, mga personal belongings nila na ginapadala, no? Or tawag nga ginagamit nila dito, nga ipadala nila din, kaya hindi na ganit sila mag-start, okay? Only those things na ginagamit nila personally, no, are exempted. Kaso kita as mga tawag dito, diba, mga parente nga ginapadala, no, di ba? And mga balikbayan box, no, mga balikbayan box. And most of it, no, are considered na exempted sa mga balikbayan boxes, no. And kita as mga abusador kita, no, gina-ano ni naton, gina-abuse ni naton nga ruling, no, inong quasi importation or quasi importation for the reason nga ang ginapadala ko no abi sa sulod sa balikbayan box is all personal usage ni ni resident or ni OFW. Okay? So what happens is that muna ginaabusaran, no, pati mga lotion, mga mantika, mga kilo-kilo nga asukar, no, ginapadala sa aton. Although dapat ang only nga exempted, no, there is sa mga tawag dito sa mga OFW are those personal na ginagamit nila. Okay? Ang logic sila daw kay tungod pagbakal nila dito sa ibang bansa, kuha na bayad na nila ang tax dito. So no need na magbayad pa sila tax diri sa Philippines. Okay? Another are those professional instruments, no, and implements, mga wearing apparel, domestic animals, and personal household effects belonging to persons coming to settle in the Philippines, okay, for their own use and not for sale, barter, or exchange. For example, naghalin ka sa ibang bansa. Pagsulod mo sa Philippines, ambal mo, diri ka na, ma-resettle ka na din, no? May bit-bit ka nga pulo, nga Rolex nga relo. Okay? May bit-bit ka nga pulo, ka Rolex nga relo. So pagsulod mo din, of course, question mo ikaw sa airport or kung ginpadala mo man sa barko, sa BOC, naman may pulo, ka Rolex nga relo. Okay? Gamiton mo bala na personally. Okay? Kaya kung may pulo ka karelo, nga baga ang quantity niya is not that for personal, no? Mostly kung ang pananawan nila ibaligya mo. So if may ara kasi mostly taksan kanila, no. Ito mo dapat personal okay? So isa o duwa lang, no. Kamo nila definition sang personal. Okay? So next, import of personal and household effects belonging to residents of the Philippines, residents abroad, no, or non-resident citizens coming to resettle in the Philippines. So what are the conditions for exemptions? Number one, personal and household effects belonging to Philippine residents or non-residents. And the goods are exempt for custom duties. Okay, kasi syempre mga personal things na naman. Pero for example, nag-import ka di sports car. Okay, pag import mo sang sports car, of course, damo ko bayaran sa customs. Kaya hindi siya dala as the basic necessity. No? Luxury siya. So, next. Ano naman itong mga professional instruments? No? Anong professional instruments? Kung doktor ka dito sa ibang bansa, di ba man mga stethoscope ikaw, no? Man mga parang clinical equipments. So once na ipasunod mo din sa Philippines, they are considered as exempted as long as gamiton mo din and for personal use and hindi mo siya pag-ibaligya. Okay, so what are the conditions? Number one, so the goods belong to the person who come to settle the Philippines. No? The goods must accompany the person upon arrival, pag-abot sa airport or sa port within 90 days before and after, no, his or her arrival. Okay, so there must be evidence to show that the change of residence is bona fide or ikaw na nga mga parang papeles, no, or mga certificates na diri ka na. And the importation is not a vehicle. Take note of this. The importation is not a vehicle, machinery, other equipment used in the manufacture of any kind of commercial quantity. Okay, dapat hindi damo-damo. As long as isa duha lang, ay hindi siya mga vehicles. mga luxury equipments, no? Exempted, right? So, muna siya ang for okay lang. Amo na siya ang for the goods, no? Amo na siya ang mga exempt na goods. So, dabi natin damo, no? Pero ang mga vatable, mas damo. Ay, so mas better nga gamay lang atong tunan. Isa-isa ho na to atong mga vatable. Okay? So far, guys, clear? Guys, clear? Hello? Okay, so let's proceed, no? Import of services. Okay, so the purchase of services from non-residents may be VAT exempt, no? Or subject to specific percentage tax or vatable import of service. Lagi na, duha lang, no? VAT exempt na kwan or vatable na goods. Pero dili sa services, may tatlo ka category. So either VAT exempt siya or subject sa specific na percentage tax or vatable import of services. Okay? So, anong treatment kasi nga? So, number one, sa import of services. So, the following exempt from the final withholding VAT. Okay? Purchase of services from non-residents when the service is rendered abroad. By the way, hindi ko na pag-itakel todo ang final withholding VAT kay it's supposed to be discussed, no, sa atong nga income taxation. Pero kung or walang amutan, sige, I try to discuss, no, later sa computation kung ano ang withholding VAT. Okay? So purchase of services from non-residents when the service is rendered abroad, no? Purchase of services from non-residents when the individual purchaser is not engaged in business, or purchase of service from non-residents by VAT exempt persons such as ecozone locators. Okay? Number one, may explanation dito. Okay. So, purchase of services from non-residents when the service is rendered abroad. For example, yung sineno na nagbakal ka machinery, right? Nag-import ka machinery pasulod sa Philippines. Okay? Now, pag pasulod mo sa machinery, there are certain parang labor or mga installations na kailangan ibrahon. Okay? And those installations, those manuals, those parang mga additional works for that machinery, no? Kinanglan maagi sa danay sa China before going to Philippines, no? So those installations and additional work, no, sa equipment again ubra sa China are exempted. Okay? So wala ka bayaran yung VAT for services or VAT on importation for services. Only lang antong equipment again pasulod mo sa Philippines. Right? Next is the purchase of services from non-residents when the individual purchaser is not engaged in business, like render ka service, no? Then hindi ka engage in business, there are times na exempted ka. Okay? Now, for example, ang mga BPO, no? Yung say BPO, business process outsourcing, okay, mga call centers. Do you think considered sila as services? So sa diin sila nabilong, no? Are they taxed within the Philippines or are they tax exempted? What do you think, guys? Ang mga call center, kasi di ba mostly sa call center, ang ilang clients o ilang customers is abroad, no? Sa tingin niyo, ano ang treatment nila? Sa tax nila, no, sa BPO? Hello? Harap pa ka mo? Huwag nakatulog na kamutanan. Hello? Ay? Good. Dumaduda kung sa akong exam ka. Ha? Okay. Sige. Let's continue. Okay, so import of services specifically subject to percentage tax, no? Isa ma lang na siya ang import of service, no, na subject sa percentage tax. Okay. The only import of service that is currently subject to a percentage tax, no, is a direct acquisition of insurance cover from abroad. Okay, ng mga insurances abroad. Right? And ang ginatax lang is ang premium payment. Right? And it is subject to a 5% percentage tax. Tama lang na siya. Okay? Next. All other import of services is subject to final withholding VAT. Right? So, the final withholding VAT is computed as 12% of the contract price. Okay, take note of that, ha? 12% of the contract price. Okay? For example niya, lease or use of properties, okay? Services rendered to our local insurance companies, other services rendered in the Philippines by non-residents. Okay, mga services, any kind of services. Okay? Sige. Proceed. Okay. So, amo na siya, no? For the, when we say of final withholding VAT, may ara dabi kita ginatawag na mga withholding agents, no? These are tax that is collected in advance, no? Or gina-collect na sila nga daan the moment na na-render ang service, no? The same with the same gina-apply mo sa income tax, no, ng mga withholding tax, no? And those withholding agents, no, are required to remit those, no, with deadline siya parang every 10th of the month, no? Every 10th of the month following the sale or rendering of service. Mamo na sang withholding. It's like an advance collection by the BIR. Kasi mamudla i-collect ang tax abroad, no? Kaysa sila imo habulon, i-subject mo na lang diri sa nagbakal sa importation. Kaysa sila nilang i-subject mo for that specific kind of tax. Okay? Something like that. Yun ang withholding VAT. Okay, so that's all for the VAT importation that covers the exemptions. Okay, mga exempt goods and services. So far, my question before I proceed, no, sa computation. Computation of the VAT on importation. Guys, harap ka mo. Duwa na nito sa batay. Yo. Lagid. Ay dumadayon amon na kwantag nga tawag dito retention policy. Wala ka mo ba sa labat? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Sige, so let's proceed, no, sa computation. Okay, so kung wala may naintindihan, it's either, kung wala na questions or clarification, it's either naintindihan mo tanan, no, or wala ka mo naintindihan at all. So, message lang sa GC na kung may question. Okay, so let's proceed on the computation. Okay, dito. Kita niyo akong gina-screen share, guys. Clear? Clear? Okay, okay, sige. Madasig mo na siya, no? You only need to identify some items or some accounts, no, before computing for the VAT on importation. Sige, so let's start. So other importation of goods, no, maliban sa itong gin-explain ta, gin-discuss ta isa-isa nga exempted, all other import of goods are subject to VAT. Meaning kung wala siya dito, considered siya as may VAT on importation. Okay? Excuse me. So other importation of goods is subject to VAT regardless of whether the number one, ang importer o ang buyer coming from the Philippines is engaged or not engaged in trade or business. No? Another, if the importer is a VAT or a non-VAT business, wala labot. No? As long as nag-import ikaw sa mga hindi exempted na goods, you are considered na importer. Alright? So the importation is for business or for personal use, wala nagamatter, mabayad ka Japon, VAT on importation. Or kung the non-resident sellers engage or not engage in trade or business. Okay? So the VAT on importation is computed as 12% of the total landed cost of the importation. So ano ini ang total landed cost? So amo na ato na i-solve, no? Ano ang composition sa total landed cost? Okay? Now, are. So madamo-damo. So wala ka mo gina-encourage na magtawag dito. Pag ka mo gina-encourage maglagpat, no? Mas better na maintindihan niyo siya isa-isa. Okay? So kung kaya niyo magbasa another or mabasa ka mo books na mas makapa-explain sa inyo better, no? So ano ang composition sa landed cost? So duha. First is the dutiable value or the transaction value, and the other inland costs. Okay? So under sa dutiable value or the transaction value, kuan man na siya na number one, ang total price, ang cost of the goods, no? If ang value or ang ginbayad nimo dito is dollars, no? You will convert that to the current exchange rate, okay, for that certain day, no? Kinahanglan mo i-base na siya dito. Another part sa transaction value is the freight, no? Ano yung freight? Freight, no? Ang shipping cost, okay? The insurance, if any, mayara. Pero mostly sa mga imports is mayara insurance, and other charges incurred before ining inland cost. What is inland cost? Okay? Pag ginabala itong inland cost, okay, are those costs, okay, once nga nag-abot na sa port or sa dock ang product. Pero maliban sa tawag dito, before that, no, before magdungka sa dock, all other costs, no, is part of the dutiable value or part sang transaction value. Okay? Pag ginaba nato niya inland cost are those costs kapag nagdungka na ang product sa dock or sa port. Okay? And diri na siya din parang naga-appear si Bureau of Customs, no? To check to price, no, sa inyo. Okay, actually this is although old na ning nga parang old na system, okay? Yan da lang ni siya ginpagwa actually sa board examination, no? Gindugang na ni siya sa new nga mga students for importation, okay? So first nga other inland cost is the customs duty. Ano yung customs duty? Amo ni ang bayaran mo sa customs. Okay, sa Bureau of Customs. These are costs, no, nga bayaran mo for the customs. But permi lang ni gina clear out sa mga books or other one na wala agent sa Bureau of Customs nga dapat mag-collect sang fee. Right? Only the BIR, okay, and the Bureau of Customs nga parang office, direct office ang mabayad. Hindi ka dapat magbayad directly sa mga brokers kag sa mga agents, no? Kaya na sila alam mo naman, Bureau of Customs is one of the most corrupt na agency, no? Excuse for the term, but amo siya kay because most of the imports, no, gina parang, di ba, may mga inside job, no, for the importation, and that's the reason also nga damo mga smuggled goods, no, because nakakalusot for them. Okay, so I don't know, right? So muna siya ang customs duty. How to compute for that customs duties? Number one, the total dutiable value times exchange rate times the rate of duty. Exchange rate kung naka-dollars, pero kung wala man, so wala. Okay? Multiply lang siya directly sa rate of duty. Excise tax, if mayara, if taxan siya nag excise tax. No? And other inland costs such as, number one, bank charges, brokerage fee, arras recharge, wharfage due, documentary stamp tax, and import processing fees. Okay, so other than that, hindi siya mabilong da. Okay? So illustration. Okay? Let's compute now for the VAT and importation. So MRS Trading Corporation imported goods from abroad for domestic sale. So shown below is the details of importation. Peso value of the supplier's invoice, ang costs ng product, other costs incurred to bring goods to the Philippine ports, okay, other before the inland costs, other charges before withdrawal of goods including 5,000 facilitation fee paid to fixer. So automatically wala na siya nandala sa cost, okay? Kaya ginbayad mo siya for fixer which is gina-discourage man, no? Kaso given yung ginbutang sa day, it's like a normal na, no? Normal process for them. So 85,000. Customs duties is 10%, and freight of goods from BOC warehouse to MRS warehouse is 20,000. So ano-ano lang ang mga included na. So step 1. Okay? First, you need to compute the dutiable value of the customs and the customs duties. Okay? Paano mag-compute dutiable value? Peso value of supplier's invoice. Then mga other costs before the inland costs na 70. Ang total value sa dutiable value is 2,070,000 times the rate of the customs duty which is 10%. So 207,000. Okay? Next, you need to compute now the VAT for importation. So na-compute mo na yung dutiable value ng 2,070,000. Official costs paid 80 lang, naman 80 kaya hindi nadala ang 5,000 na fixer na cost. Okay? Customs duties 207,000. So ang total landed cost is 2,357,000 multiplied by the fixed rate na 12%, 282. No? Hindi na siya mag-compute for the dutiable value. So kung may makita kada na mga freight, dala na siya sa dutiable value. No? Kung may insurance sa dutiable value. Okay? Insurance before mag-abot sa Philippines. Freight before mag-abot sa Philippines, dala na siya da. Okay? Next. Okay, next na illustration. So, Mang Pandong imported a sports car from a US for personal use. No? So, the following shows the details of the charges of the importation. Take note, naka-dollar sa babaw. So, meaning you need to convert that into peso value. Okay, so, pagka-pilaya purchase price, $50,000. Insurance, 500. Freight, 800. Okay, the last total sa dutiable value. So total invoice price is 51,300. Okay? Ano pa? Arastre, 8,500. Ano ni? In pesos. No? Bank charges, wharfage, brokerage fee, dock stamp, import processing fee. Total other charges is 105,815. Okay? So may other information. Ang relevant exchange rate per BOC memorandum circular is 45 pesos per $1. The importation is subject to excise tax, no? And tariff rate na 30%. So anong obrahon? Step 1, compute the dutiable value, okay, or sa transaction value. So ang total niya is 51,300 as shown here. Okay? So times the exchange rate na given by the BOC, follow nyo gitna, ang iya total value is 2,308,500. Times the rate of duty na 30%, which is also given here. No? So, ang total ng customs duty is 692,550. Okay, you can get your calculator to try, no, and compute. Okay, so ang total na dutiable value is 2,308,500. Customs duty, 692. Okay, excise tax, paano nakuha ang excise tax? Excise tax, din ito nakuha ang excise tax. 30% siya eh. Ay, wala naka-include. 30% man na siya. Okay? 30% sa dutiable value. Okay? Okay, so next, other charges, ito. Then, the total landed cost rate. I-check ko ang rates ng excise tax kaya wala nakabutang. Hindi, given. So, sorry. Given ang ang excise tax, no? Ginhatag sang problem. 683,510, sorry. Pero usually gahatag ang problem percentage. So you compute that based on the total man Japon na cost sang product. Okay? Sorry sa book. Okay, sige. Okay, so given siyang excise tax, no? Then other charges, ng 105,815, total niya is 3,790,000. Okay, multiply by the fixed rate na 12%, no? So ang total ng VAT on importation is 454845. Ining VAT on importation, madiretso ni siya sa BIR. Okay? Customs duty, this is for the Bureau of Customs. Okay, ining sa babaw. And ang value niya, of course, yung bayad mo ito sa seller or sa supplier. Okay? Customs duties sa Bureau of Customs, excise tax sa BIR, other charges mostly sa customs duty. Ang VAT on importation is charged for the BIR. Okay? So, that's all. I'm going to mag-compute. So, any clarifications? Guys? So, problems, may question, may na hindi maintindihan. Ay? Tulog na guro ko.
Wala naman, sir.
Okay, sige. Amo na siya, no? 12% na siya ang VAT on importation. Fixed rate na siya. Okay? Excise tax, basi galasa, given, no? Given na siya. But, if maghatag sang parang percentage, diri ka mo base sa 2,308,500. Okay? Sa total purchase cost. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Sige. Okay, so umula na, no? And recorded ba? So, ma-upload lang ko ang nga. Can we have our examination on Friday? The same time sa hapon? Guys?
Pwede man, sir.
Pwede man, sir.
Abot ang iban. Basi 3 lang malaya ang gusto mong exam. Pero wala. Friday ka ma-exam. Okay? Same time? Through Google Forms?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, the same sang last week. Okay. So, kung wala na questions, so I think we're good na, no? Mas screenshot lang ko sa attendance. Okay. So, maski hindi na mag-open, next na slide. Okay. So, thank you guys now for attending. Yung record ko, I will upload then isend ko sa sa GCTA. Okay, so you can go. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye. Bye-bye.